testifies may be cross-examined, and from there I will decide the relevant facts and law to resolve this matter. So with that out of the way, Ms. Feynman Sowers, you may, or do you wish to make an opening?
No, Judge, given the time constraints, I'm going to waive that.
All right, Ms. Jackson, anything for an opening? You're welcome to reserve for your portion of the case if you preferred as well.
Your Honor, I can reserve for the portion of my case, but I just wanted to check with the court to make sure you all received my exhibits. Or do I need to resubmit them?
Yes, ma'am. We did not receive your, let me double check. No, ma'am. Did you get something stating we received it?
I didn't get a kickback, so
Can I ask, were there any videos in that pack, in the exhibits?
no, it was just pictures. And
Was it in PDF?
they're PDFs and some photos. Yes.
Yes, if you
So
could.
they're not all PDFs, is what you're saying. Well, let me ask this, because I think the way this hearing is about to proceed is we're going to spend between now and the time we have to take a break exclusively with the petitioner. Do you anticipate needing the exhibits for cross-examination?
I may, Your Honor, but what I'm looking at my screen now is some PDFs and some JPEGs, not videos, photos.
Okay, have to be in PDF. That's the only way we take them.
So if you take the JPEG files and then you can hit save as, and you should be able to save those as a PDF.
Okay.
And so in the short run, if you wish, you can remove the JPEGs from the attachment list, submit the PDFs, and that will give them something to get started on. And then we can work on getting the JPEGs converted over and submit those after.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Ms. Feynman Sowers, you can swear your witness in and begin when you're ready.
Okay, so my first witness, I'd like to call the petitioner, Maya Thelma Jones. Ms. Jones, could you please raise your right hand? And could you take yourself off mute? Thank you. Ms. Jones, do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to provide to this court is the truth and nothing but the truth to the best of your knowledge?
I swear.
Okay. For the record, could you please state your name and your age?
Yes, my name is Maya Thelma Jones. Age, I'm 24.
Okay. And are you employed?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And how do you support yourself?
I receive VA compensation for my service-connected injuries.
Okay. And how do you know the respondent, Mr. Dunbar?
I previously dated him.
Okay. And how long were you in a dating relationship?
From 2021 up until March 1st of this year, 2023.
Okay. And during the time that you were dating, did you give birth to any children?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And what is the age and name of that child?
Gianni Dunbar, he's 1.
He's 1. Do you have any other children?
I do.
And what's the name and age of that child?
His name is Victor King and he's 5 years old.
Okay. And does he have any special needs?
Yes, he's autistic.
Okay. And did the respondent for a period of time live with you and the 2 children?
Yes, he did.
Okay. And could you give me the dates he did?
So from about the end of June 2021 up until March 1st of 2023.
Okay. All right. I would like to, has the respondent legitimated the child Gianni?
No.
Okay. To your knowledge, is there a pending legitimation in DeKalb County?
Yes.
And the civil action number for that is 23 FM 3809, correct?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you filed an answer, but there has been no formal adjudication of him being the child's legal father at this time?
No.
Okay. I would like to draw your attention to March 1st of 2023. Could you explain to the court what happened on that date?
Yes, ma'am. So the day prior we had an argument. And that same day he told me to commit suicide and give him custody of our son. He also started to bring up my trauma in relation to my father not being in my life, and also the fact that I was sexually assaulted in order to get like an answer out of me. So then obviously it trickled into the next day. That day, that February 28th, I reached out to some people that he said are the only people in the world that know him. It was one person that is two people that he says only know him. And one of the people that I reached out to ask, you know, hey, like, is there just something I'm doing wrong? Like, how did you know this person? Like, how did they grow up? Just asking questions. So I went back to him and I talked to him about it, and he got upset. He stormed out. He's like, oh, I know who you talked to, yada, yada, yada. So he called her and she said whatever she said to him. And as a result, he was upset up until March 1st, the next day, into the next day. Didn't ask me what happened, none of that, just straight off of whatever she had to say. At the time I was pregnant with our son, with another child. And into the next day, this argument continued. That's when he kept saying, if you talk to me, I'm going to go to jail. And I was like, but like, okay, if you're that upset, you know, you probably need to remove yourself. So that is when I went in the kitchen. He just kept going back and forth. I went in the kitchen. I got a garbage bag. I walked to the room and I was like, hey, you know, like, it's time for you to go. So I started packing a bag. And then I went back in there. And that's when he came from behind and grabbed me by my neck. And then he released me. So he grabbed me as in choking me, and then he let me go. And that's when I ran out of the house and I went and called the police. As I came back towards the door, I could hear him taking his cards, like a bunch of cards that he had, and just dumped them on the floor, trying to like stage a scene of whatever he thought he was going to do. And after that, I met the police up front. They asked him where he brought my youngest son, which is Gianni. They asked him, hey, where's the other child? He said, I don't give a F about him. That's not my son. And he left my special needs son locked in the apartment building.
Okay, I want to go back. So you had an argument prior to him choking you on March 1st.
Yeah, so we had an argument the night of February 28th.
Okay, all right. So, but it was on March 1st that did he make any threats while he was choking you?
So he said that he would end us all. He said, you're always threatening to leave. This is March 28th. He said, you're always threatening to leave. You're always saying you're going to leave. If you leave, I'll just end us all. And that's when he went to go pick up his weapon.
What kind of weapon was that?
It was like it's like an assault rifle.
He's also a veteran?
Yes.
And he carries an assault weapon? He has an assault weapon in the home? Or did? Okay. Okay. Did he point that weapon towards you or the kids?
No. So he just said he got it. That's when he started to like load it and he cocked it, and then yeah.
And what did you do when he did that?
I went and I called my counselor because we had a meeting anyways, and I was just telling her like everything that was going on.
And then did you also call the police?
No, I did not, because he came and was like, what are you doing? Why are you on the phone with her? Why are you doing this? Who are you talking to? What are you saying? Like, he came and literally sat there to see what I was saying to my counselor.
Okay, then what happened?
After that, he left. I don't know where he went. I don't know what he did. But then he came back like the next day, which was March 1st.
Okay, and what happened on that date?
That's the day where I told him, you know, I was like, hey, like, what's going on? Like, why are you so upset? And he's just like, you're so stupid. You called these people and you betrayed me. You told them that I did this to you and you sent them pictures. And I was like, yeah, because I'm trying to figure out, like, why are you acting like this? Like, the stuff that you say, and because I'm not giving you that response that you're looking for, you're bringing up my sexual assaults that occurred in the military. Also the sexual assault that his friend sexually assaulted me himself. And like,
okay, I just want to focus on the violence between you and Mr. Dunbar. Okay, I can see that you're upset about this. What I want to, okay, so you were talking a little bit more about, he came back, you said on March 28th, and this is when
this was February. It was February that the first argument started, and then it carried on into March 1st.
Okay. So the choking then, that didn't occur on March 1st, that occurred on the 28th of February?
No, it occurred on March 1st.
Okay. What date did he grab the weapon?
February 28th.
Okay. And at any time, where were you living at the time?
We were living in Woburn, Massachusetts.
Okay. And after the events on March 1st, did you file a police complaint, a complaint with the police?
Yes, I ran out of the house and I called them, and they stayed on the phone with me until the police arrived, like, into our building.
Okay, so was this after you concluded your call with your counselor?
Yeah, so this was the next day. She was just like, make sure you have a safety plan in place. And we kind of created what a safety plan would look like in the event that something did escalate. And she just like encouraged me to just leave. Like she was just like, you just gotta go. Like I don't know how to tell you. Like I had literally just got there like a couple of days before because I got out of the army. And she was just like, obviously cost of living here is a lot different from where you used to live. So, you need to look at your resources, but you do need to leave. And so she pointed me into the direction of some resources that could possibly help should something happen.
Okay, and what caused you to call the police on March 1st?
Because well, I have my phone in my hand, and normally he takes my phone and it doesn't end until whatever domestic violence and abuse doesn't end until he decides that it ends. So I ran out of the house and I had my phone, and that's I finally could call them.
The police.
Right.
Okay, and then when they arrived, what was he arrested?
Yes. Well, eventually, yes, he was arrested.
And
Like-
what was he charged with?
Domestic violence against a family, domestic violence and assault against a family member, and like improper storage of firearms.
Okay. And during the time that he was incarcerated, to your knowledge, was he ever released on bail?
Yes, they called me like the next morning and was like, hey, we're just alerting you that he is getting out. So that was March 2nd. They called me and like, hey, he's getting out. And then they just kind of gave further instructions and said some like a victim advocate would be reaching out.
Did you also file for order of protection in the state of Massachusetts?
No, they told me that there was bail conditions that were already set in place. They said I could get a restraining order, but they said that because I was moving, they didn't want to set a hearing and then I not show up. So they told me to file where I was moving to. And I did that, but Florida said that they have no jurisdiction because it didn't occur in Florida. So I told my victim advocate this information and she said she was going to see what else we could do. She told me I could come back to Massachusetts, but she obviously stated that's not what she would, I guess, the best option. So she waited a while and then she contacted me and that's when she said, because he kept doing more stuff. He kept having people reach out to me, like, despite the bail conditions. He kept calling my ex-husband and told him a bunch of lies and stuff like that. So that's when I told her like all of this stuff. And that's when she recommended that I try to figure out like what county he lives in. And then I figured it out. And that's when I came to DeKalb County, like reached out to you guys.
To follow the order of protection in Georgia and DeKalb County.
Yes.
And you currently live in Orlando, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, before all this incident occurred, had there been prior incidents where he's attacked you?
Yes.
All right, I'd like to draw your attention to a couple distinct dates. Could you please, let's start with the oldest one. What happened on December 15th of 2022?
October?
Yes, I'm sorry, October 15th, 2022.
So October 15th is where we were
Oh, hold on. And where did this occur?
in Muskogee County, Georgia.
Okay.
So October 15th, that's when we were arguing because he was trying to force this girl that he knows to marry his friend from Africa, in order for him to gain citizenship and stay like in the United States. So I was like, hey, like, I just feel like you should just if that's what they decide to do, that's what they do. But I don't feel like that's the right thing to force on somebody because that's what you want them to do. But again, it's not my business, not my situation. But I was just like, from my perspective, I don't feel like that's right. And then he was trying to use our son as a means to facilitate them doing this by creating a fake invitation to bring his friend to America to send to the embassy there.
Okay. I'm sorry to interrupt you. What I'd like you to focus on is the acts of violence that occurred, not necessarily at this point the other conversations unrelated to the violence.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. So on this day, that's where we came home. We were at the grocery store when this conversation took place. We came home, the argument continued, and that's when he went to the car and I shut the door, I chained the door, and I told him to just go chill out. Don't come in here, like stay away. Until he cooled off, because he threw the wagon, like the wagons that you pull, that you put the stuff in that everybody has. He took that and he threw it.
The wagon the food wagon?
Yeah, like the wagons that you put stuff in that you kind of like pull, like everybody's has them now, like to get the groceries out the car and stuff like that.
I see. Okay.
It was folded up, like it wasn't a square, and he took it and he threw it. And then he had said that he was gonna shoot the entire house up. So when he went to the car, I said, hey, yeah, no, stay away. I locked the door, I chained the door. He unlocked the door, but it was still chained. And he was like, I want to get some clothes. And I was like, okay, I'll bring you the clothes, but there's 2 kids in here, and the way that you're acting, like your conduct is not appropriate. And like this is not something I want to deal with. So I got him the clothes, brought him to the door. He said, those are not the clothes that I want to wear. That is not what I'm wearing. He just kept going on and on. And I told him, I said, if you break this door, I'm calling the police. If you break the door, I'm going to call the police. And that's when he just broke the door down, and like the frame of the door along with the little chain came off.
Okay. And were you able to call the police?
No, I was not able to call the police.
Why
but
not?
I honestly don't know.
Okay. And did you take any photos of that door?
I did.
Okay. And if I could, I'd like to bring up petitioners exhibit number 5, which is on page 2. Page 5.
One moment.
I think I'm looking, it look like, is this it, page 6 maybe?
Oh, okay. So unit label, the list is page 1. Okay, I'll adjust my numbering system.
Oh, that's
It-
fine.
Is this the photograph of the door that you took on October 15th?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it a fair and accurate depiction of the door at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you make any alterations to this photograph?
No, ma'am.
I'd like to publish this and offer it into evidence.
Counsel, any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay, and could you explain to me what it looks like the door? Could you just explain what that gray color is surrounding the door?
So that's the part of the door that was ripped. Like, so the off to the left, there's a frame, and that's the piece of the frame that belonged there that he took off when he barged through the door.
Okay, so he was outside, he forced his way in, and the chain pulled the frame off the door, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did he damage any other property on that date?
There was just a dent like on the patio from where he threw the wagon.
Okay, and did he make any other threats to you or to your children on that date?
No.
After he got in, what happened?
So he left. He went to like Atlanta to do whatever. I don't know. He went to Atlanta, and then he eventually came back, and that was kind of like the end of that.
Okay, so could you tell me what happened on October 31st of 2022?
Yes, so October 31st, it was another argument. And
Was he back in Georgia? I'm sorry, was he back in Columbus? Is that where you were living?
he was
Okay.
back at this point. And we started arguing or whatever, and he was choking me. I locked the door, he kicked through the bedroom door. I was like, he was choking me to the point, like he put me in a headlock, and I was like,
I'm sorry, Judge. I'm not sure if the other attorney is.
Yeah, she just dropped. She told me to let you guys know. My apologies.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank
the attorney dropped. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't notice that. We can wait.
Okay, your exhibit 5 is 5. It's just page 6. So I'll
Okay.
find it as you tell me.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And sometimes when you disappear from our screen, you have already been gone and we don't realize it yet because there's a lag and it takes some time for Zoom to realize that you have dropped. Do you know where we lost you?
She was saying that he forced his way into the door.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear that.
He forced his way in through the door.
Okay. And, all right, so you haven't heard anything about the incident on October 31st, correct?
No.
Okay. Ms. Jones, I want to go back and ask you again to tell us what occurred between you and respondent on October 31st.
okay, yes. So October 31st, there was another argument. Won't get into the details. So as a result of that argument, I was choked. I was put in a headlock until I started to turn purple and almost passed out. I was thrown down several times by the head. I was punched in the head. I also ran out to go look for my neighbor. He snatched me from the neighbor's door. I had to jump out of my balcony, like my patio. I had to knock the screen out and jump out to get away from him. I ended up getting in touch. I have found my son's iPad because he took my phone. And I found my son's iPad in his room, and that's how I was able to call my parents, and my parents called the police.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back. When you say after he punched you in the head, choked you till you nearly passed out, and took your phone, you were able to escape. Where were the kids at this time?
My son, or the youngest child that we shared together, was right there in the same room when this occurred. He was inside of his playpen. My other son was in his room. My oldest, my 5-year-old, was in his room.
Okay, and so you managed to get out of the house. You went to the neighbor's house. Could you explain what you mean when you said he snatched you from the neighbors?
Right. So he, the day that this happened, he wouldn't let me leave. Like, I was like, just let me leave, just let me leave. I just want to leave. And he's like, you're gonna get the police call. They're gonna come arrest me. Yada yada yada. I didn't do all this stuff to just go to jail. I'm not going to jail because of you. And da 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 da. So that's when finally, like, I went on the patio because there's like a glass door. I opened the glass door and I just went and jumped out of the patio. And then once he left, he took our son, like the youngest, and he said he was leaving. Then that's when I ran back in there, and I went in the room, and that's where I got my son's iPad, and I called my dad, and my dad called the police. And the police came.
Okay, okay. So I'm trying to get you to describe to me. You said he snatched you from the neighbor's
Door, yeah.
house. Can you
Right.
just?
So I was in front of her door and I was knocking on the door, but she wasn't answering. And so that's when he like snatched me from the door and drug me back in the house.
Where did he grab you?
He grabbed me by my arm.
Okay, and when you what kind of force did he use?
He like yanked me and then like I was on the floor, and he dragged me back into the house. And this was the same arm that was injured in a previous incident. And he was like, well, I'll break your arm again, or I'll do whatever to your arm again. That's what he said. He used the word break, but as we discussed, like, it was a specific.
Okay, so he drug you by your arm back into the house. And then what happened?
So my parents had already like called the police, and he left. And the police had came. And they were like, you know, where is he? He had left. The police called him, and he was like, where are you? Like, you know, she has marks. There's stuff, you know, obviously nothing just didn't happen. Like, something happened. And he was like, I'm scared. And the man was like, well, the police was like, yeah, well, I mean, if you didn't do anything, why are you scared?
Okay, so was he arrested on that date?
No, he was not.
Okay. Did you take any photos of your injuries?
I did.
Okay. I'd like to pull up. Well, first let's go into, did he damage any property on October 31st?
He damaged the door to the bedroom. When I was in there, I had locked the door. He kicked the door down. He damaged my mirror.
Was this before or after he drug you back in the house from the neighbors?
This was before. This was early on in the argument. Yes.
Okay. And I'd like to, did you take a photograph of the damage to that door?
The door, yes. And the mirror as well.
Okay. He also damaged a mirror?
Yes.
How did he damage the mirror?
He threw it, like he just took it and threw it, and it broke.
Okay, so I'd like to pull up petitioner's exhibit number 6, which is on page 7. Is this the picture you took on your door on October 31st?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
And this is the door to your bedroom?
Yes, ma'am.
And you had closed the door and you were hiding in the bedroom from him?
Yes.
Okay, and this is this a fair and accurate depiction of what the door looked like after he kicked it in?
Yes, ma'am.
And has it been altered in any way?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I'd like to publish and offer it into evidence.
Counsel, any objection?
No objection.
Admitted.
I'd like to, the next page is exhibit number 7. And is this a photograph that you took?
Yes, ma'am.
And this is the mirror on October 31st, 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it a fair and accurate depiction of the damage you caused to the mirror?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you altered this photo in any way?
No, ma'am.
I'd like to publish and offer into evidence.
No objection.
So admitted.
You also mentioned that you took some photos of your injuries on October 31st. Those are contained in exhibit number 8, pages 9 through, I believe there are 10 photos. 9 through page 18. Could you, all of these photos, I'd like to, if I could, Your Honor, I'd like to authenticate these photos in bulk unless there's some objection.
That's fine. And if there are any objections to specific ones, then I'm certainly happy to hear those once we get through. So we can,
She just again.
I don't see Ms. Jackson anymore.
one of the hazards of screen sharing is that it
Yeah.
automatically takes you out of gallery view. So right now I can see all 8 of you, or the 8 screens, including me, that are a part of this hearing. Everything but that is now out of the way, and so we can pick back up where we left off, which was in the middle of direct examination of the petitioner. So Ms. Feynman Sowers, whenever you're ready, you may resume.
Okay, I believe we left off where Ms. Jones was concluding her testimony with respect to the incident that occurred on October 31st of 2022. We showed some photos. I understand that council was briefly kicked off the Zoom, was back, and I'd like to go on. I believe that I've completed all the testimony with respect to that date. However, I just want to verify with her that there was not anything that she missed with respect to that date.
I did not see all the videos, and I think when I dropped the last time, you were showing pictures. I'm sorry, pictures of her arm. I had not seen those photos.
Okay, so this was petitioner's number 8, page 9 through 18. Did you get through all of those photos?
I saw the neck.
Okay. There's some of the bruising.
Mhm.
You testified that your client caused the bruising. I just want to make sure you didn't miss anything.
Right, those are the photos we were flipping through when I dropped.
Okay. All right, this is something else. That was the end of the photos.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So what I'd like to do is, I was mistaken. There actually were earlier incidences of domestic violence. And there are 2 other instances that I want to draw the court's attention to. Ms. Jones, I'm going to ask you about what happened when you were testifying about the incident on October 31st. You said that the respondent dragged you by your arm, and you mentioned he had previously injured that arm. Could you tell me what date he did that? I think you're muted.
Yes, ma'am. The day that this occurred was July 24th of 2022.
Okay, and so you're speaking about the injury to your arm occurred on that date?
Yes, ma'am, it did.
Okay, could you tell me what the respondent did to injure you in your arm on that date?
Yes, ma'am. So on this date, we had an argument. Things got physical. I was thrown against the closet, like in the closet, I was thrown against the wall several times. I was slammed onto the floor several times. I was stuck in the room with him. He wouldn't allow me to leave the room. Several instances of pushing, flipping the bed several times while I was sitting on it. That was what happened that day. After that, later in the day, like a little bit after, everything, he left and stuff like that, I went to the ER. They took an x-ray. They said that I needed an MRI, but they couldn't do one right at that moment. So that's why the date on the report is further into the future, a little couple days, later, because I had to be scheduled for an MRI.
Okay, when you're referring to a report, you're referring to a medical record?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we haven't gotten to that yet.
Okay.
What did he do to your arm specifically that caused damage?
He was yanking me, pulling me. He was slamming me on the floor. After I was slammed on the floor, that's when, that's what I heard, the arm, like something pop inside my arm, and I started screaming.
Okay, and in July of 22, you were living in Georgia?
Yes, Muskogee County, Georgia.
Okay. I'd like to ask that exhibit identified and marked as a 10 be brought up. It's on page 21 and 22. Okay, were you actually able to get an MRI of your arm and your shoulder on that date?
Not on the same date, no.
Okay, when were you able to get that MRI done?
The 11th of August, 2022.
Okay, and I'm showing you what's marked as exhibit 10. Is this the report and the diagnosis from that MRI imaging? Is it the report that you
Oh.
received?
Yes, ma'am, this is the report.
Okay, and what did you understand your injuries to be as a result of what occurred on July 24th?
So they told me that my shoulder had been dislocated. They said it was consistent with the fall. And they said that it was the shoulder dislocation caused a complete tear of my labrum, like in my shoulder socket. So that's what they told me. And they said I had a lot of like swelling and fluid in there, which was expected with, what happened.
How long did the pain of this injury last? What did it disable you in any way?
Yes, ma'am. So I could not put my seatbelt on. Anytime that I would try to reach, like turn my hand a certain way, I was not able to do that. I couldn't sleep on that side. I could not even hold my son in that arm. I was not able to perform my military duties. And that was thrown into my packet for getting out of the military. That was one of the reasons that I had to get out, because I could not perform my duties due to this injury.
Okay. If there's no objection, I'd like to offer exhibit 10 into evidence and then publish it.
Counsel,
No objection, Your Honor.
all right, admitted.
Okay, I'd like to your knowledge, is the respondent a current active member of the military?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Was he at one time?
Yes, he was.
Okay. To your knowledge, has there ever been any other witness to acts of violence between you and the respondent?
Yes, only once.
Okay, and when was that?
That was the June 27, 2021 incident. I
Okay,
believe.
you didn't testify as to that incident. What occurred on that date?
So that was the date that I was moving out of my apartment. And we got into it. My room, me and Mr. Dunbar, it got physical. My room was destroyed. Things were thrown everywhere by him. And we were arguing. And his friend, who was taking stuff to the truck, like to the moving truck, when he came back in and he was in the room, he witnessed us going back and forth and arguing. And Mr. Dunbar pushing me, and then his friend was acting kind of like, I guess he got upset, kind of like he was gonna fight him in a way, and he was like, you better not touch her, you better let it go. But yeah, he had pushed me and stuff like that, and his friend was upset.
Did his friend observe Mr. Dunbar pushing you?
Yes, and he was trying to get him off of me.
Okay, and what was his friend's name?
So Sir Jala.
Okay. And on that date, did you sustain any injuries?
I did.
What were they?
I had several bruises on my arms. Like I said, my room was destroyed. I just had bruises and scratches.
Okay. And were you pregnant on this date?
No, ma'am, I was not.
Okay. And was your older son present when this occurred?
I don't recall, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So I want to go back a little bit and talk about the criminal charges that were in the state of Massachusetts, because I forgot to ask you a few questions. So now, after Mr. Dunbar was arrested on March 1st, did you remain in the state of Massachusetts?
No, ma'am. Well, I did after that day, but then I ended up moving shortly after.
Shortly after. Okay. And when did you move?
I moved I believe it was officially the 24th, but I had been staying somewhere else because he became friends with the maintenance man and they were watching my apartment. Like, I seen him physically looking across over to my apartment, passing by my apartment and things like that.
Who is he when you said he?
The maintenance man that he was friends with, his last name was Cooper. And there were several instances where he was going out of his way and then looking across from the office area over into my apartment, awkwardly passing my apartment, just monitoring what I was doing. At the time, I was pregnant with our second child, our second son, and I just like I did not feel safe staying there at all. So I was staying somewhere else, and then I would just come there like to get whatever I needed, and then I would leave.
Okay. And so when you left the state of Massachusetts, where did you move?
I moved to Florida.
You moved to Florida. And why did you choose Florida?
Because at the time I was pregnant, I was sick, and I needed help with my 2 kids, and that's where family is.
Okay. And what happened to the criminal charges? Are you aware of how that criminal case was resolved?
Yes, ma'am. So what happened was I wasn't properly notified in order to go back to Massachusetts. So they got in contact. They reached out to me the Friday before the hearing. The hearing was on Tuesday. I reached back out to them. I didn't hear back until Monday. And that's when they said, you know, can you come tomorrow? And I was like, no, because I don't live there. And I let you guys know I don't live there. So they were just like, okay, well, we'll try to see if we can get it extended. But if not, you know, if you're not going to come back, we're just going to more than likely push to go ahead and dismiss it. So they ended up dismissing it.
When you say they, who are you referring to?
The prosecutor, we talked about it, and she was just like, if you want him, you know, we don't know, like you're saying he's doing more stuff. So he kept doing stuff throughout the process. And I was just like, I just want him to leave me alone. Like, I just want him to leave me alone. And so she was like, you know, if you don't plan on coming back here, then, you know, we'll see what the judge says. And from there, I was just like, I don't plan on coming back, obviously a day before. So as a result, it was dismissed.
Okay. And to your knowledge, was it dismissed for lack of prosecution?
I know they said that my testimony was like vital, so I'm assuming.
Okay, that's fine. So in addition to filing this temporary protective order, what other steps have you taken to protect yourself?
I've had to change my number for like 2 times. I had to create a new email address. The VA notified me that somebody called pretending to be me and tried to obtain the address that I had on file. So I had to have everything locked down, like make my account sensitive so that nobody can, I guess, get in there. I had to install cameras all around my house and stuff like that, like outside and stuff like that. I had to change up my vehicles. Like, I've had to do quite a bit surrounding this situation. And I also had to contact one of his friends' chain of command in the military because he kept contacting me. Basically,
Who is he? When you said
his friend, Brandon Butler, they were contacting me basically saying like, I need to agree to this and I need to agree to that when it comes to child support, because I filed a case here in Florida for child support and they were working on establishing paternity and doing the child support. So then Mr. Dunbar, because I didn't agree to whatever, then that's why he went and filed a case in DeKalb County. So there's 2 open cases.
Okay. Now, when you say, were you attempting to keep your address confidential?
Yes, my address is confidential.
Okay. And given Mr. Dunbar's conduct towards you, are you in fear for your safety?
Yes, ma'am, I am. He's did various things throughout the time that he had bail conditions. He also reached out to my son's father and tried to tell him like that they should go do a certain amount of stuff. My son's father does not want to be a part of anything that we have going on, and he made that clear to me. He also inquired about the domestic violence that I went through in my past relationship, and also called the people that tried to get in contact with the people who sexually assaulted me, and also asked my ex-husband about sexual assault that occurred.
Okay, so are you in fear for your physical safety?
I am.
If this court were not to issue an order of protection?
I am concerned about my safety.
Are you asking that the court extend your order of protection for 12 months?
I'm asking that the judge will extend that order.
Okay, and are you asking that order also extend to protect your children from contact with the respondent?
Given the threats that were made in regards to killing us all, I'm asking that be extended.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
All right, council, you can cross whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Ms. Jones. My name is Kenya Jackson and I represent Mr. Dunbar in this matter. I just want to ask a few questions and probably get some clarifications along the way. So you testified that there were previous incidents of violence and things that happened to you, correct?
That is correct, ma'am.
But you haven't mentioned anything about what you did to Mr. Dunbar, did you?
I've defended myself, yes.
And in what instances were you defending yourself? Are you aware of the fact that he was injured?
Nope, he never seeked medical attention. He never brought anything to my attention. So
In the July 24th, 2021 incident, did you contact the police? I'm sorry, 2022, July 24th, 2022?
I'm sorry, you said, can you please re-ask? Like you said 2021, then you said 2022. So
July 24th, 2022.
yes,
Did
ma'am.
you contact the police?
No, ma'am, I did not.
And this is where you allege that your arm was injured and that you had been slammed to the floor and stuck in a room.
Correct, ma'am.
And when exactly did you say you went to the ER? Because I couldn't see the date on that document.
I went to the ER the same day, the 24th of July.
And when did you have the MRI?
11th of August.
So it was almost 2 weeks later.
Due to the military scheduling, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I want to bring your attention to the June 27, 2021 date.
Mhm.
That's the date you said you were moving out of your apartment, correct?
That is correct.
And you were moving into Mr. Dunbar's apartment.
That is correct.
You indicated that his friend, what was his friend's name?
Soser Jala.
And you said that in your testimony that he observed what happened between the two of you?
Some of it, not all of it.
Okay, so your testimony was that he witnessed you all fighting?
He witnessed a portion of it. He didn't witness what happened in my room, but he witnessed what happened in my son's room because he was taking the stuff down to the moving truck.
So you would agree that he witnessed some part of your fight?
A portion of it, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you testified that he observed allegedly observed my client pushing you.
Pushing me, we were in a struggle, yes. He was pushing me and then he attempted to like get him off of me. And then that's where he was got in a stance, like he was gonna fight. And he was like, you better not touch her, you better stop.
Okay, and were you defending yourself on that day?
I was.
Do you recall punching him in the head?
I do not recall punching him in the head. All I recall doing was pushing him off of me several times, the same thing that his friend was attempting to do.
On the March 1st incident, prior to that incident, do you recall when you all were living in Muskogee that you all were supposed to move into Florida?
That was, I believe, that was months. That was, yeah, months. Yeah, that was towards I think it was like October, November 2022.
Okay, so you would agree that in October 2022 that your original plan was to move to Florida, correct?
When I got out of the military, yes.
And that you're the one that made the decision to move to Massachusetts, right?
No, not by myself, no.
So you have family in Florida?
Yes, I do.
And when you decided to move to Florida, after you got out of the military, what changed your mind?
So, I mean, we had like, I think 2 or 3 different places that we talked about moving to. One of them was Miami, the other one was Orlando, and then we talked about Boston. I personally moved to Boston because my son is autistic and that's the #2 state in the country. I mean, in the country, yes, for children with autism. So that's why my plan was to move there and go to school.
Okay. When you were there, did your son get the help that he needed in Boston?
He started to, yes, but we had to redo all the referrals and do everything. So that was all in the process. He got evaluated and stuff like that.
Okay. All right. So you testified that you actually observed the maintenance man. Did you ever see my client?
Your client came to get his car, but I never observed that.
He never violated any of his pretrial conditions, did he?
Yes, he had people contacting me.
How do you know that he had people contacting you?
Because they told me. One of them told me. And he also contacted my old coworkers and told them that I was missing and that he needed to talk to me and that he needed my phone number, my address, and all of my information.
And what is that person's name?
Her name is Bass, Specialist Bass. Bass.
Isn't it true that you've contacted his family as well?
His mother after the incident, yes.
What about his friends on his PlayStation?
Oh yeah, I did. But that's my PlayStation because I purchased it. So
But you contacted his family and were harassing them, correct?
no, that's not true.
What about the harassing messages you sent to Michael Cooper's business account?
What business? What? I don't even know nothing about a business account. The only
Did you,
thing that
did you send any messages to Michael Cooper?
Michael Cooper, yes, I did. But not to a business account.
And did you know that Victor, your ex-husband, is not participating because he doesn't want to mess up whatever agreement you all have?
I mean,
Objection calls for speculation as to what the reasons why her ex-husband isn't testifying today.
Your Honor, the Ms. Jones testified that he didn't want to be involved. And the reason why I'm asking that question is because he said he didn't want to be involved, or at least it's my understanding that he didn't want to be involved because he doesn't want to affect the visitation that he has in place with the child they share.
Okay, so why don't you ask her if that's been communicated to her? But I agree, that's, and that fact's not an evidence or speculative kind of category otherwise, but you
Okay.
can ask if he's made any statements regarding his own custody and this matter.
Ms. Jones, has your ex-husband Victor made any statements to you as to why, I'm sorry, something coming across my screen, as to why he's not participating in this custody issue or this TPO hearing?
so he personally reached out to me and said that he doesn't want anything to do with what we have going on. He apologized to me for his past conduct and the things that he did to me. And he pretty much was like, he doesn't want anything to do with this. He changed his number. He said he had a child. He doesn't want anything to do with this. I recorded all of the conversation. So
You would agree that my client was actually involved with the processes that you went through with your ex-husband, correct?
no,
So you're saying now that he wasn't a part of any of the hearings?
no, he was not at all.
He was
No.
not a part of any of the conversations between you and your ex-husband?
Nope, we talk in our family wizard and he has no access to that.
So it's your testimony that
Hang on a second. Who is we and who is he? We talk in my family wizard.
Oh, so me and my ex-husband have to communicate through our family wizard, Mr.
And the
Dunbar.
respondent has no access to my family.
He's never had any access to that.
Okay, I wanted to make sure I was understanding both pronouns in that sentence correctly. My apologies. for
Sorry
the
about that,
interruption.
Warren.
Go ahead, Counsel.
I'm asking specifically before the My Family Wizard was set up with Victor.
Mhm.
There were hearings that took place that created all of that.
I'm
Right.
going to object to this line of questioning, Your Honor. I don't know why proceedings involving her ex-husband has any relevance to this TPO proceeding.
Counsel.
Your Honor, the relevance is that a lot of the hearings that my client attended were very similar to what we're experiencing right now. And I'm just asking the question if my client was involved with those things. And it appears that she's picking up with, no, he's not involved right now. And I'm asking about previously, not right this moment, but with the hearings and the activities that took place prior to everything that's in place between her and Victor now.
I'm not.
Again, I don't.
I'm not.
Sorry, Judge.
I'm not following. Even if that were completely true, what
I'll move on. Judge.
evidentiary value would that be to this court?
A pattern. A
That
pattern
she's been abused twice, or that she has made these claims up twice,
that
one
she
or
has
the
made.
other,
Yes, that she has made these claims up twice. Yes, Your Honor.
or yeah, or depending on the assessment of her credibility, the alternative. But okay, but we're not going to hear. How would that be brought into evidence as part of the respondent's case? He's going to say, testify as to her testimony in other court proceedings?
No, Your Honor, he's just going to testify to what he's observed in other court, in other proceedings and interactions with other people, just as she has.
I'm going to be honest, I don't know about that, but you can carry on with your questioning for the time being.
Okay, Your Honor, I'll keep it moving. Ms. Jones, you were served on the legitimation, correct?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
Do you remember being served on that? When you were served on that? I'm sorry.
It was sometime in May.
And you provided an answer to that legitimation, correct?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay, and do you recall when, well, you already testified that the case was dismissed against you, against my client in Massachusetts. And you're aware that that case was dismissed in July, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so when that case was dismissed, do you filed this TPO just about a week after that case was dismissed, correct?
I can't remember the exact date, but it was close to that time. I was advised that I needed to get a TPO because the bail conditions were coming off if the case was dismissed. So that's what the victim advocate asked me to do. And I previously tried to obtain a protective order here in Florida when I first got here. They said that they didn't have any jurisdiction. And Massachusetts, they told me that I needed to come back there in order to do one. And I planned on going back there, but it just was not financially the right thing to do. So my victim advocate did some research, and that's when she said, you need to figure out where he lives. And that's how they got the county, and that's what led to me filing a petition.
And these incidents that you're describing all took place well in advance of the Massachusetts issue, correct?
I'm sorry, can you, I guess, re-ask your question, because you're saying
The
TPO.
Massachusetts, I'm sorry, the Massachusetts case is the main case on this TPO.
Correct.
And the other incidents that you're referring to inside of the TPO, you didn't do anything in those cases regarding calling the police or filing the TPO.
I did call the police. I also reported to my chain of command, my medical doctors. They knew what was going on as well. So I asked them at the moment not to do anything because I was dealing with some other stuff with him. So I didn't want to further aggravate things.
And so with these incidents that took place in July of 2021, the incident that took place in July of 2022, and then the October one, you still moved to Massachusetts with Mr. Dunbar?
Yes. So back in January, what happened was the lease ended in Georgia, and I was getting out the military, so I did not have really anywhere else to go. And there was long wait lists. So I went ahead and moved to Massachusetts, and we resided there, but I told him that I just didn't think that it was a good idea from the beginning. And he was like, oh, things are going to be different. Like, we're both out of the military. Things are going to change. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. And it was still the same stuff. So
let me direct you to the October 31st incident. After that incident, you said that the police came out, correct?
yes, they did.
And there was no arrest made, was there?
No, I agreed to go ahead and I said, hey, as long as he leaves, I don't care what he does. I just want him to leave. So
And he left, right?
correct.
He moved to Texas, didn't he?
He did not move. All of his stuff was still in my apartment. He said he was coming back. He did not move. I even told him that I was going to go. I even sent him an email saying, I'm evicting you. I can't even remember the date that it was on, but I said that you're not allowed to come back into this apartment, so on and so forth. And he said that he had been getting mail there, and the police also said the same exact thing. He's been getting mail here. Like, there's certain laws and things in place. You can't just do that.
Did you proceed with any eviction process?
No, ma'am, I did not. I just did the email, and that was it.
Do you recall when you provided your answer, what you answered to in terms of whether or not my client was the natural father of your son?
Yes, I put that he is. He's on the birth certificate, all of that.
Isn't it true you isolated him from his friends?
No, that is not true.
Isn't it true you isolated him from his family?
That is not true.
Isn't it true that you punched him on FaceTime in front of his mother?
I did not punch him. He was on top of me, and I moved him out the way.
Isn't it true that you've called his family and tried to threaten his job?
What job? He doesn't even have a job. Not that I'm aware of. Why would I threaten his job? He's not in the military.
What about his future career?
I haven't called anybody. What future career? From my understanding, he was in school in Massachusetts and I haven't talked to him. I don't know anything about his plans. I don't know anything about what he has going on.
Okay, I'm glad you said that. So isn't it true you haven't talked to him?
I have not talked to him. The only thing that I asked him was to cease from having people contact me.
And isn't it true you haven't even seen him?
I have not seen him. Other than today, I have not seen him.
And isn't it true that he hasn't seen his son since March?
Right. That was a part of the bail conditions.
Have you seen those conditions?
They were emailed over to me. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, just looking at my notes. You allege that in your testimony, you allege that he threatened to shoot up the house. Did you mention that to the police?
Yes, I did. That's why they took all the weapons in Massachusetts.
So you're saying you mentioned that in Massachusetts?
Yes, I did mention that in Massachusetts.
And just, I didn't object to this, but I just want to ask a question about the photos. Were those photos that were associated with the October 31st, were they all taken on the 31st or they were taken at different times?
These were taken on the 31st. And then, yeah, those were on the 31st. And then I think the next day when I seen the bruise appear on the side of my face, that's when I took that other picture.
And for clarification, on the October 15th incident, did you call the police for that one?
October 15th.
In Muskogee County, when the door was kicked in?
No, ma'am. No, I did not.
And you mentioned earlier the charges that he had in
Correct.
Massachusetts.
Yes.
I didn't know if the second charge was what exactly did you say that second charge was?
It's in the letter from the advocate. I can look at it really quick. I just know that they said that
No,
it was
it was what?
improper, something about storage of a firearm.
Correct. Okay, that's what I wanted to just know if you were aware what the charge actually was for. At this time, I don't believe I have any additional questions, Your Honor.
Redirect.
Just to clarify, he was also charged in Massachusetts with assault and battery on a family member, wasn't he?
Yes, that was the second. Yeah, the second. That was the first charge, and then the second one was the one that she just asked me about.
Okay. And to your knowledge, were his weapons returned to him after that case was dismissed?
I'm not sure.
Okay, that's
I don't
fine.
want to speculate. I don't know.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Jala, is it Jala or Jolly?
Jala.
Mr. Jala, can you please search your video? I'm sending something to search your video. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you for your incredible patience with us over this very long day. Ms. Jackson asked to go ahead and hear your testimony first before her client, since you had been so patient with us. Unfortunately, court has been running on one case or another since 9 o'clock without a break. And so here we are. So would you please raise your right hand for us? Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you give today will be the truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. You can put your hand down and please state your name for the record.
First name is Sorsor, last name is Jala.
All right, counsel.
Mr. Jala, how are you today?
I'm all right. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Could you tell the court how you know Mr. Dunbar?
I met him when we were in Liberia together in 2009.
And what happened after 2009?
We just stayed friends. I left Liberia in 2012 and we got reunited in 2013 and we've been close ever since.
And could you tell the court that your connection, other than being friends, is there any other connection that you have with Mr. Dunbar?
I mean, besides, we pretty much grew up together. We danced together. We, went out together. We did everything together.
So you would consider yourself good friends with Mr. Dunbar?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And on the particular day I want to draw your attention to is June, I believe it was June 21st or June 27th, 2021.
Yes.
Do you recall that day?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you recall about it?
It was, I was still living in Georgia. Him and I were roommates, and he had asked me to help his girlfriend move out of their apartment because he wanted her to move in with us.
And you assisted with that move.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you describe what was happening during that move?
When we got there, it was pretty much, I saw that they were both pretty aggravated about moving because, you know, moving can be difficult. But it seemed like they wanted to talk about something. And as we were moving things, his girlfriend, Maya, she got very aggravated. And while we're in her son's room, while we're moving things, she became the aggressor and hit Franklin in the face 2 times. And Franklin was physically upset. And I decided to remove him from the apartment.
Did you see Franklin or Mr. Dunbar? Did you see him strike Maya?
No, ma'am.
What did Mr. Dunbar do?
Like I said, he was physically upset, and I know how he is, and I decided to move him immediately.
And when you removed him, where did you remove him to?
Outside the apartment.
And once you left him from the moved him from the apartment, what happened then?
I heard a lot of yelling, mostly coming from Maya. She was saying something along the lines of how she was going to hurt his career in the military because he was still in the military at that time.
Did you observe anything like? Did you observe Maya being pushed by Mr. Franklin?
No, ma'am.
Did you observe Mr. Franklin moving any furniture or pushing any furniture?
No, ma'am.
Did you observe any injuries to Maya?
No, ma'am.
Did you observe any injuries to Mr. Dunbar?
Yes, he had a slightly black eye. It was still pretty fresh.
Was the police called that day?
Not to my recollection.
Did you leave the premises with Mr. Dunbar?
Yes, ma'am.
And you said that you all were roommates, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So did you all go home?
So after that incident, I believe they worked something out and we finished the move.
You finished the move that same day?
I believe so.
Okay.
Because we had most of the stuff, to my recollection.
Okay. Was the temperament between the two of them, what was it like when you continued the move?
It was still pretty tense, but like I said, I believe I worked it out.
Okay. And how long did Maya live with you all as roommates?
So after the move, which was June 27th, and she moved in finally, I stayed until about August until I moved out. So July, August, about 2.5 months, 2 months.
Okay. And during that time, did you notice or recognize any more arguments between the two of them?
Every once in a while, yes.
Okay. Anything physical?
No, ma'am.
At any point during the altercation, did you have to restrain Mr. Dunbar from attacking Miss Jones?
No, he was very compliant once I told him to calm down and it's not worth it, and immediately left the premises.
Okay. No further questions. Thank you, Mr. John.
Okay, Cross, when you're ready. You're muted, counsel. Still no.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I apologize. Mr. Jola, did I pronounce your name correctly?
Jala, like Allah with a J.
Jala, okay, thank you. During the time you were helping them, the respondent and the petitioner move on June 27th of 2021, were there periods of time where either or both of them were not within your direct view?
I mean, all the doors were open because we were moving, so I could pretty much see everything that was going on.
Except for the times that you were taking things out to the truck, correct?
Yes,
So when you were moving things or you're at the truck, rearranging things in the truck to fit it all in, there were times where you didn't observe any, you couldn't observe any interactions between the two of them.
correct.
Okay. And you said that you were in Maya's son's room when you observed her hit Mr. Franklin, and Mr. Franklin was upset.
That is correct. We were both in her son's room when Maya hit him in the face 2 times. Correct.
Okay. And to your knowledge, do you know what preceded that interaction in her son's room?
I can't remember everything that had happened, but like I said, I know that they were trying to discuss something and they didn't want to talk about it in front of me. Sorry, so I was getting a phone call. Let me go ahead and mute that. Sorry. Yes. They wanted to discuss something, but Franklin kept saying, now's not a good time. Let's finish the move, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. So you said you took him outside and you said, man, it's not worth it. Let's leave. So he was obviously, you removed him for both their safety or just for his safety?
I mean, he was the one that was attacked, so mainly for his safety.
Okay. And what's his height and weight? What would you estimate that to be?
5'10", 190 pounds.
And what about Ms. Jones? What's her height and weight, would you estimate?
I'd say about 5'4", 5'3". I'm a pretty tall guy, so I can't really judge her particular height.
Okay. And what about her weight? Do you have an estimate on that?
It'd be 130, 140.
Okay. Okay. And I don't have any further. I just want to be clear. What were you doing in Liberia together with Mr. Dunbar?
We're both in high school together.
Okay.
Junior high and high school, excuse me.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I have no further questions.
All right. Sir, if we were in court, this would be the part where I could say that you could. Oh, I'm sorry. Counsel, did you have redirect?
I did briefly, Your Honor. So when you were taking things to the truck, were you out there for an extended period of time?
As soon as I dropped, whether it was clothes or toys or whatever that I was moving, once I dropped it out, I came immediately back in.
So if you had to estimate how long you were outside, what would you estimate it to be?
4 minutes, if that. Where we parked the U-Haul was right next to the stairs, so I could easily, go up and down.
So just long enough to get up and down the steps.
Yes, ma'am.
And just for clarification, you were born in the United States, correct?
Correct.
And how did you end up in Liberia?
So my parents are from Liberia, born and raised there, and they ran away from the war back in the 1990s. So I was born in '95 in New Jersey, and I have siblings and stuff, and they decided that they wanted to move back in 2006 when they thought that they had everything together. So I ended up moving to Liberia with them in 2006.
Okay. All right. No further questions, Sean.
All right. Sir, you have concluded your business with the court for today. I want to thank you again for being with us for such an extended period. And for now, you are welcome to log off, and I hope you have a good evening. Thank you.
You have a good day too, sir.
All right, Ms. Jackson, your client has already been sworn in and is still under oath, and so you can proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Dunbar, if you could tell the court, are you currently working?
No.
And how do you earn a living?
Right now I'm a disabled vet. I get my income from VA.
Okay. And that income, your disability is based on what?
It's based on my medical retirement that I got from the Army, ma'am.
Okay. And how long were you in the Army?
I was in the Army for 9 years, ma'am.
And since leaving the Army, what have you aspired to do?
I entered, well, first I applied to a master's program in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, which I got accepted into, Nova Southern University for mental health. But with Maya's plans and her wanting to go to Boston, Massachusetts, I applied to Cambridge College and I got accepted into Cambridge College, man. So that's where I am presently.
Okay. And so let's back up a little bit. So when did you decide to leave? Where were you living before you applied to to graduate school?
I was living in Columbus, Georgia, man.
And do you remember the time frame that you were living in Columbus?
So I was stationed there back in 2019. I went to Fort Bragg after, and then got reassigned to Fort Benning, Columbus, Georgia, where I met Maya Jones.
Okay. And when did you meet Maya Jones?
I met Maya Jones March 2021.
And after you met her in 2021, tell me about your relationship.
In the beginning, it was amazing. Maya was everything and more. Like it was good. It felt like I had met my soulmate. Everything was going good until like I noticed like certain red flags, and my friends advised me to stay. No, not to stay rather, but I kind of ignored it and I just continued.
And when did Maya get pregnant, or when did you all have your son?
We had our son March 29th, 2022.
And what did you do? Describe how you handled things during the pregnancy.
When Maya was pregnant, I gave her the earth, the moon, and the stars. Anything she wanted. As a matter of fact, after she gave birth, right there, after she gave birth, nurses could attest for that and everything. She said she wanted another one. She said a tear. It was a beautiful thing.
Let me direct your attention to the incident that occurred prior to your son being born, through the July 27, 2021. Could you talk to me about that?
July 27th.
2021.
Oh, 2021. So at this point, Maya had been over the house almost all the time. Victor was there. It got to the point where she was sleeping there. Victor was sleeping on the couch, and Ashley looked at me and was like, "Man, it seems like you really like this girl." I'm like, "Yeah, I do." He's like, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I honestly want to move her in because this makes no sense because she's paying rent over there and she's here all the time." So he's like, "Hey, bro, if that's what you want to do, go ahead. I don't advise it, but okay." And I did that.
Now, who is Victor?
Victor is her firstborn son, Victor King.
So Victor, who's 5 now?
Yes, he's fine.
Okay. So you were having a conversation with Victor, the child.
I was having this conversation with Eshe, Soso Jala.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think you said Victor.
I spoke with Victor on the line of she was sleeping over the house in my room, and it got to the point where Victor was laying down on the couch.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But you were having this conversation with your friend.
Yes.
So let's focus on what happened on the day that you all moved her into your apartment.
So before that day of move-in, she got into an argument with me. She said I liked somebody's picture on Instagram, and she said I was embarrassing her, and this is something that she cannot, like, she's not gonna have it, and whatnot. And third, I looked at her and I was like, "Look, Maya, we'll talk about that later, and whatnot. Let's focus on the moving." As we were going throughout the moving, I didn't want Ashley to know about it because I didn't want Ashley in my relationship problems. So when we stepped aside and we went in the room, I looked at her and I'm like, "Maya, we'll talk about this after. This is not the time." She continued to be aggravated about it. I was like, "It is what it is. We're not discussing this right now." And as we went in the room, she went further on to like show that aggression. She started standing in front of me. She started yelling in my face and whatnot. SJ standing right there. And next thing I know, I'm punching the face and I'm in shock rather. She hits me in the face again. And like, I don't know what to do. Because at this particular point, like, no, I've never been in a situation where a woman other than her had put hands on me.
Okay.
SJ saw my face. He picked me up literally. Took me out the door. He's like, let it go. Not worth it. As we stood there, she began to yell, "I'm going to use you as a passionate reassignment to go to Korea." So in the Army, I was an officer and she was enlisted. We were fraternizing and we were not supposed to be with each other to begin with. So our relationship was in secret. So she used that as a leverage to threaten me and say that she was going to get a passionate reassignment to go to Korea and that I was going to lose my career. While we stood outside for a moment, Ashley was just like, "Let's calm everything down and whatnot." I knocked on the door. I'm like, "Maya, chill out," and whatnot. She opened the door. She let me in. And she was like, "I don't want him in our discussion. I don't like him."
Okay. So after that, did you end up leaving?
Yes. After that, I went back outside. By the time Ashley was like, he'd been moving some other stuff around the truck. And I was just like, "Bro, let's just carry this." He was like, "You good?" I was like, I'm good, bro. And we moved the rest of the stuff that same night. As she went in his room, he felt awkward about the situation, but her and Victor were there.
Okay.
And we moved her stuff into a storage that was right up the street from where I resided.
Okay. Let me draw your attention to the July 24th, 2022 incident.
Okay.
What happened on that day?
On that day, again, everything was going fine. And Maya, it got to a point where she was like, oh, I can't get past this. There was some girl like in November that tried to talk to me, and I shut it down and didn't tell her completely. And she got upset that I didn't tell her completely. So I'm at Walmart at this point, we're arguing and whatnot, and she reveals to me that she had HPV. She had HPV from the beginning. She waited a year plus to tell me because she did not want to reveal that to me and whatnot. And I'm not gonna lie, that made me very upset. My son was born underweight. I was wondering why my son was born underweight. And she waited an entire year to tell me. When I got back to the house, I did not want to talk to her. I told her, give me clothes. I need to go to Atlanta. I need to go to my Uncle Banja. And she refused, and she tried to manipulate the situation. And I'm like, at this point, I do not want to talk to you. You're not gonna like force me to talk to you after you just told me that you've had HPV, you've known it for a whole year. You knew it through childbirth and you said nothing.
And then what happened? Did you leave to go to your uncle's?
This is the situation with the door and whatnot. Like, she kept, I couldn't hear exactly what she was saying because I was on the outside, and it was like a small opening in between it. And at this point, I'm like, Maya, this is embarrassing. Like, this is humiliating. At this point, you're bullying me. You can't give me that type of information and then want to control the manner in which I can react. I just don't want to be around you.
Okay.
So I went on. I was like, please open the door. Like this is embarrassing. Open the door. I was upset. I won't lie. One night she brought me clothes, and I'm like, I'm going to Atlanta. I have to look presentable. Like, what if my uncle wants us to go sit down somewhere and talk? I was like, I need to talk to someone. So as I continue nudging on the door, like, piece of it, what you going over? I had enough room to go through. I went in the house. I grabbed what I needed, and I left. And I went to Atlanta that night. And while I was in Atlanta, she called me apologizing, begging. My uncle looked at me and told me that you're here now. This is your family. Go back home. And the next day I went back home and I forgave her.
And just for clarification, she was living in the apartment that you moved her into, correct?
No. So this is where things get tricky. While she was pregnant, we had a mold issue in one of the apartments at my old apartment. So they moved us to another apartment and there was still mold in it. My friend Worthy helped us. His last name is Worthy. His name is Taj Worthy. Helped us move from one apartment to another. And we saw mold in that one. My friend Cameron.
So, Mr. Dunbar, I'm just trying to get to the point that
Okay,
you're living in the complex.
No, we moved to a different complex.
Okay, so whose name is on this lease?
Her name was on that lease, but my card wasn't the one paying the rent now. Up until the month I got out the army, which was November.
All right.
I think somebody.
And so on that day.
I think the judge is gone.
Oh.
Yeah, he must have lost connection. Just give us a moment for him to come back on.
Okay.
So the last I heard from Mr. Dunbar, her name was on the lease and his card was paying the rent.
Yeah. Also, yeah, in that sense, yeah.
And so, do you recall anything happening that day that would lead to the police being called?
On the 24th, now?
Or not, I'm sorry, not the police being called, but would lead to anything regarding an injury?
Oh, she was doing earlier that day, she was doing a pull-up, or no, at that point it was a leg tuck for the ACFT and whatnot. And she we had one of these, those that you buy at Walmart, which is like a portable pull-up bar. You put it like behind the door and whatnot. She was practicing a leg tuck on that, fell and landed on her shoulder. That is also what she's service connected, 40% disability from the Army from, which makes it service connected.
When she fell, did she seek any medical attention?
She went to the ER that night. She let me know that she did, yeah.
And did anything happen after that, as far as the injury?
Over time, it took her a while to get an MRI. And then when she was going through her disability process, they took that and they added it in it. And that's what also disqualified her and led to her, added to her medical retirement, as well.
Objection, hearsay he doesn't have any direct knowledge based upon these questionings as to the reasons for her discharge or any other facts related to her service.
Mr. Dunbar, what are you basing that conclusion on?
I'm basing this off, her and I went through the medical retirement process at the same time. Literally. I was there for everything. Literally.
So,
And so
who-
I'm sorry.
sorry, this is more for my information. Who makes this determination?
So
Can we just say the government?
yes, the government. We'll just say the
Okay. So the government sends a finding that you are whatever percent disabled or whatever it may be, and there are different disabilities, different levels of disability that can pertain to various conditions. So have you been told by the petitioner what a finding was or what these numbers were?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. Carry on, Ms. Jackson.
Okay, so on June 24th, is it your testimony that she fell off a pull-up bar?
Yes.
And did you do anything to her to cause that injury?
No.
Okay, let me draw your attention to the October 31st incident.
Hmm.
Could you talk to me about that?
So at this point, I had went to Liberia for a month, and while I was in West Africa, Liberia, I got her a pre-engagement ring, which is a V ring by our culture, and I got my son a both of these were gold. They were gold. It was a gold bracelet with his name on it. For her culture, like the children have bracelets on their anklet. So I had my son Gianni in my hand, and she had accused me of paying prostitutes in Liberia. And she was arguing with me saying I spent too much money in Liberia. And I continued to tell her no, majority of the money went to the gold in which I spent for her. And she punched me in the head with my son in my hand. And I looked at her, I was like, Maya, did you really just punch me with Gianni in my hand? And she did it again and again and again. And it got to the point as I was taking my son to literally go and put him in the crib, she was still hitting me. At that point, I pushed her away from me. And when I'm like, Maya, what are you doing? Our son is right here. She took off the V ring and she flushed it down the toilet. For
Okay.
a moment.
So let me show you some exhibits, and I'm sorry, Your Honor, I'm on my phone, so I may or may not be able to see them myself, but I believe it's responding to exhibit A. That
A
was
as an
sent-
apple.
Yes, A
All
as
right,
an
so
apple.
Ms. Broom, can you get that one?
And just for the record, although I have provided Ms. Jackson copies of the petitioner's exhibits, I've received nothing from her with respect to the intended exhibits for admission.
Okay,
All right.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I didn't receive anything from you, and maybe because I'm on a different computer, so I don't have access to my work email. So everything that was sent, I sent on Sunday. My staff resent all these things while I was.
It's 6:30. Let's just see the exhibit. If there's an issue, I mean, part of this is challenging. You know, I spent 12 years as a prosecutor, and part of the challenge, you know, we did not have reciprocal discovery in misdemeanor cases. And one of the things that was challenging but understandable as I grew and matured with that was the idea that it wasn't clear exactly what evidence would be presented until you had a chance to hear the evidence in the case in chief in the first place. And so Ms. Broom will get the exhibit pulled up and screen shared momentarily, and we can work through it. If it's anything complicated or that requires further follow-up questions, there will be ample time to do so.
Okay,
Can you see my screen?
yes. Mr. Dunbar, do you recognize this picture?
Yes, I do, ma'am.
And is it an accurate depiction of what is this picture?
This is after things had calmed down and
No, what date was this picture?
oh, this is October 31st. No,
Okay, is this picture altered in any way?
no, ma'am.
And it's a fair and accurate depiction of what happened, or a picture of you from October 31st, 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, we'd like to admit what we have marked as responded exhibit A.
Any objection?
Okay, now I'm unmuted. No, Your Honor.
All right, so admitted.
Mr. Dunbar, could you describe what's going on in this picture?
So at this point, I had been punched in the head and I was upset and I took a picture of this as a recollective memory.
Okay, and is that little mark to my left on your forehead, is that the mark that you're talking about?
Yes, that's the mark from the V ring in which she had on.
It's the
With
mark from the what?
The V ring, the ring in which she had on when she punched me, which is why it's at an angle and it's straight, man.
Okay. Are there any other marks on your face that you want to talk about, or just that one?
Just that one, ma'am, because you
Okay.
can't. Yeah.
All right. And I'm not sure which picture is next, but if you could show the next one, Madam Clerk. Mr. Dunbar, do you recognize this picture?
Yes, I do, ma'am.
And has this picture been altered in any way?
No, ma'am.
And what day did you take this picture?
October 31st, ma'am.
Okay. And is this a fair and accurate depiction of what you took on October the 31st?
Yes, ma'am.
And what does it show? I'm sorry. Maybe admit this picture, Your Honor. This is respondent exhibit B, B as in boy.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Dunbar, could you explain what this is showing?
This is showing a stretch that Maya had put on me.
Okay. We can go to the next picture. Mr. Dunbar, do you recognize this picture?
Yes, ma'am.
And has it been altered in any way?
No, ma'am.
And when was this picture taken?
It was taken October 31st at the aftermath of Maya biting me.
And is this a fair and accurate depiction of what your forearm looked like on October the 31st?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, we would like to admit this as respondent exhibit C.
No objections?
So admitted.
Mr. Dunbar, could you tell us exactly what this is a picture of?
This is a picture of the aftermath of a very deep bite mark from Maya Jones.
Okay.
You can literally see the curve and the teeth marks.
Okay. And can we move on to the next picture? Mr. Dunbar, do you recognize this picture?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this picture altered in any way?
No, ma'am.
And when was this picture taken?
October 31st.
And is this a fair and accurate depiction of what that area of your, looks like your, underneath your arm?
Yeah, my arm, my right arm.
Is that an accurate and fair depiction of what it looked like on October the 31st?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, we'd like to admit this as respondent exhibit D, as in dog.
Objection?
No objection.
So admitted.
Mr. Dunbar, can you explain what this picture is showing?
This is the aftermath of me being clawed by Maya Jones, rather.
We're ready to move on to the next picture.
The next picture is not for October 31st.
Oh, it's not, okay. Okay, I see that. Thank you, Mr. Dunbar. We're not ready for that picture. And so on October the 31st, you indicated that you had just gotten back from Liberia and gave Maya a ring, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so was there an argument that ensued on that day?
Yeah, she had said I paid for a prostitute in West Africa, Liberia. That's why I spent about $2,000 the 1 month I was there.
Okay, and so tell us a little bit more about what happened on that day after the argument. Was the police called?
The police were called, and she had gotten so violent to the point in which I took my son. I was like, at this point, you need to calm down. You don't want to go anywhere. I took my son, I put him in the car, in the process of me taking my son, she would kicking my car, cursing at me in the parking lot. I managed to drive off. Yeah, go ahead, man.
So when you're saying you took your son, did you take your son before or after the police got there?
Oh, this is before the police got there. When the
Okay,
police,
who
yeah, go ahead, man.
called the police?
Maya called the police. Maya Jones called the police, rather.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand the order.
Mhm.
You all were arguing. Maya called the police, and
Mhm.
then you got in the car to
No.
leave it.
I got my son, put my
Mhm.
son in the car. Maya called the police.
Okay.
The police told me to come back.
Okay.
They told me to bring Gianni back, which I did.
So just for clarification, Mr. Dunbar, you left before she called the police.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So she called the police, and the police told you to bring your son back,
Yes, ma'am.
and you did that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when you were back on the premises, did you have an opportunity to talk to the police?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you talked to them, what did you tell them?
I explained to them scenario in which happened. The first thing I alerted them was that all the firearms that were in the premises had been taken out. They're in my trunk. I popped open my trunk. I said, here are these firearms. Like Maya had gotten to a point where when she was in the house, she went in the room and I heard I had positioned Victor in the living room. I put on Gracie's corner for him. And when I put on Gracie's corner and I heard an assault rifle rack back. And I immediately went to the door and whatnot. And I punched a hole in the door, opened it, and there she was with an assault rifle pointing at me. I went up, I grabbed the barrel, I pulled it up, and I was like, don't ever do that again. And I immediately took the rest of the firearms out of the household. And then from there, that's when I proceeded. I put my son in the car and I drove away. And afterwards, that's when she called the police. But again, now back to me showing the police and whatnot, I explained to them what happened. At that time, I still had blood dripping from my forehead. I still had all these marks on me and whatnot. They sat her and I down. They asked what happened. I gave my collection of what happened. They looked at her, they asked her, did you lay hands on this man? She said, no. The police officer said, I'm gonna ask you again. Did you lay hands on this man? She said, out of defense. He's like, all right, you know what? We don't have time for this. You're both Army. Somebody has to leave. I raised my hand. I said, I'm willing to leave. The police helped me take my weapons and rounds out of the apartment. I took all my clothes. I went to my buddy in Alabama and whatnot. He was with my unit. I stayed with him for a little and I looked at him. I was like, I don't feel safe here. I'm just going to leave as a whole. And I drove to Texas, man.
So that night you left the house.
Yes.
You went to Alabama.
Yes.
And how long were you in Alabama?
I was in Alabama for all of 2 hours.
Okay. And then you left Alabama and went to Texas.
Yes.
And when you got to Texas, how long were you there?
I was in Texas for 2 weeks. And within that time frame, Maya apologized and she asked me to come home. She paid for therapy appointments. And because of that, I agreed and I went back. But we did therapy before, while I was in Texas, before I went back.
Okay. So she apologized to you and asked you to come back.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
And you returned back to where you were living in Muskogee County at the time?
Yes, ma'am.
And then, so let me just make sure I clarify this. When the police were called, was anybody arrested?
No.
And so when you came back to Muskogee County, when was that? Was it November?
Yes, it was still November. It was right before her birthday. Yeah. It was either the 16th or the 7th. Around her birthday. Her birthday is November 18th.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you testified that, so what happened after that? After this October 31st incident, you came back November 17th. What happened after that?
After that, it was things smoothed out, that's when we had went to Florida to visit family. After coming back from visiting family, she decided that she no longer wanted to go to Florida. I told her that was a short window. She said she wanted to go to Massachusetts. During that time, or when you're in school with the Army, they pay for your BAH, for your housing. So I applied to Cambridge College. She wanted to go to Massachusetts. I said, okay, I'm gonna make it happen. And my BAH was supposed to pay for that rent. The cost of living in Boston is very high, or
Do you
Massachusetts.
have, I'm sorry, do you have family?
Just for 1 minute. I apologize.